The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Yeah, Earnestly Speaking podcast. Let's get it. I'm a giant in New York, in Miami carry heat. So much more in store, my product can flood the street. Opinion Nation Godfather, CEO. Puff in the late 90s, gon' see me blow. Oh. Got my hustle on, no imitation of that. Army of untouchables, Opinion Nation staff. Never an off season, homie, check the numbers. Heart throbbing my own right, supplying southern comfort. Earnestly speaking, my ego is well fed. Earnestly speaking, you're too evil and no threat. See, I'm like a hurricane, you're a mild breeze. Earnestly speaking, leaving Eli a dynasty. Shake!
Emergency podcast here, coming to you on Sunday, September 29th, 2024. Emergency podcast, because we're going to discuss the big trade that happened. Actually, it was official yesterday, but the first announcements, want to call it, of the trade in the NBA. This is how you know NBA is around the corner now, too. Especially like we hear these obviously we're in the middle of NFL right now. So I'm trying to fix my my camera. I'm actually not using my boom act. I'm just holding it. This will be a short pod. NBA is around the corner. Media days already started. A couple teams, and we also have training camps starting this week, and obviously season starts in less than a month. And then we have the big news on Friday night. The Knicks and the Timberwolves have agreed to swap big pieces here. The Knicks trade Julius, Randle, Donte, DiVicenzo. I think there's other piece. I think there's a Detroit pick in there also too, but that's the minor part of the deal. In exchange, the Timberwolves send all-star Karl Anthony-Towns to the Knicks. For the record, I've been saying for 2 years now that Karl Anthony-Towns felt like a Knicks acquisition at some point, and they actually do it. My assessment on this deal is pretty simple. The Knicks are all in, and you've seen the moves they've made with their roster. Signing Mikal Bridges, trading for Mikal Bridges rather from the Nets, and all the pieces they put together in the last couple months here. This Knicks team is very competitive now. They've been to the second round of the playoffs the last 2 years. They probably should have been in the conference finals last year. Had OG Anunoby, who, by the way, they also re-signed this summer, not gotten hurt. So they're clearly going all in here. The window for the Knicks. I saw the Knicks first. We'll get to Minnesota second. My assessment of the Knicks right now is that I believe their window now is just 2 years now. With this core, I'm not saying they can't win beyond 2 years, but with this core, with Anunoby, with Jalen Brunson, obviously, who's now probably a top 15 player in the league now. I mean, with how he's been playing, he was sort of my MVP rankings last year. Obviously with Mikal Bridges now, and you got Karl Anthony-Towns and all that. The window now for the Knicks, I believe, with this core is 2 years. We'll see. But they are now in a position now where, on paper, and obviously we're going to be doing our NBA season preview on the podcast at some point in October, next couple weeks. They are clearing the lane now for being the clear number 2 team in the Eastern Conference. Like right now, I'm still putting Boston number 1, but number 2 was kind of muddled between Philadelphia. Obviously, got Joel Embiid and Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, but obviously the trust of health there aside might could be an issue. Milwaukee, still Milwaukee, but getting a little older here and there. Miami hangs around the course. Cleveland hangs around the course. New York right now on paper, I would say, is the clear, not total clear, but clear enough number 2 team in the Eastern Conference on paper. Also, a couple other things about the Knicks and Karl Anthony-Towns. I'm curious now how the city of New York is going to take Cat going forward. Cat's a different pun intended, I guess. No pun intended. Cat is a different cat. Karl Anthony-Towns is a different dude. You guys know on this podcast that I think he's a very talented dude. I think he's a very, very good player. I I've always say he's overrated. I've never been a big fan of Karl Anthony-Towns. Although last year he had moments where I felt he grew up a little bit, especially in the playoffs, a couple runs in the playoffs. But Karl Anthony-Towns is a kind of he's a different bird. You can get away with that in Minnesota. In New York, with that media and that scrutiny down there, I'm a little on the fence with that. But I feel like maybe some playing in New York may actually help him grow up a little bit and mature a little bit. So I'm wondering if how that'll work out with Karl Anthony-Towns and whether or not he can adjust to the pressure of playing in New York. But also people asking, well, why would New York make this move? I think, well, first off, I didn't think about this until like probably a day later. I had time to think about it. I think Karl Anthony-Towns is going to be playing center again. He's played center most of his career, but the last 2 years, I believe, he's been playing power forward in Minnesota because they signed Rudy Gobert, and Rudy Gobert is obviously a center, so they moved Karl Anthony-Towns to the 4. But I think this also addresses them losing Hartenstein, Isaiah Hartenstein, who left the Knicks via free agency to OKC. Which I think is a big move because I don't think the Knicks actually trust Mitchell Robinson to stay healthy as good as a solid player as he is, specifically on the defensive end of the ball. I don't think that team actually trusts him to stay healthy. So I think adding Karl Anthony-Towns at least addresses pretty much that position. To have two guys here that can go on and off with. So I think Karl Anthony-Towns will be playing center for the Knicks this season. Now, big picture, I love this deal for the Timberwolves because what Minnesota is doing here now is they're slowly starting to morph. Like we already know that this team, and for the last 2 years we've known this, that this team of Minnesota was Anthony Edwards' team. And Anthony Edwards is a top 10 player. Some may even say top 5. He certainly is the rising star of the last year or so in the league. And they are slowly making moves to build this team around him as opposed to just because initially this team was built around Karl Anthony-Towns. And that is not the case anymore. We saw that change last year. This is Ant's team now. And they're making moves because there's a lot of bad contracts on that team as well too. You got the Rudy Gobert contract that's still sitting on there. You have RJ Karl Anthony-Towns contract is pretty sizable as well too. So they're making moves now to prepare to move this team in a direction where they're building around Ant only. You know what I'm saying? So for this deal, in my opinion, is I believe a bigger picture is a good one for Minnesota. I love the pieces that got back. Now, Julius, I look, people are going to say this is controversial. I'll say anyway. I think the Randle for Cat swap is, I won't say it's a wash, but it's closer to wash than people get credit for. I think both guys are solid players. Both guys are all-stars. If you want to say Karl Anthony-Towns is a better player, so be it. Probably, but I think it's close to a wash. But I think what makes this deal great for Minnesota is what they got in addition to Julius Randle. They got Donte DiVicenzo, who had a phenomenal year last year in New York. Great shooter, great glue guy, and he was great in New York last year. I think there was he's probably gonna get lost in the shuffle this year with the new acquisition, the Knicks made this year. But I think adding him to Minnesota now, a shooter to the anchor kick out to now, which Minnesota actually does need. They need shooters. It's going to help a lot for Minnesota. I think Donte will be a massive piece to that team in the short term, especially. Now, in terms of contracts, Julius Randle can opt out of his deal after this year. And most likely, I would think he will opt out unless he finds that Minnesota is good. The fit as well. We got to see how this year goes. If the fit is pretty decent, I think maybe he'll stay long term. But he can opt out after this coming season rather. His player option is $30 million, only $30 million. When you compare it to what players are getting today in this year's NBA, that he's going to get more than that. Even whether or not you believe believe he's a number 1, number 2 option, he's going to get on the open market at least $40 million plus a year. That's going to happen for Julius Randle, barring injury, of course. So you have that situation. So you'll see how that plays out next year. And then you also have Rudy Gobert, which obviously that contract I've already said. I said it when they signed him, when they traded for him from Utah a couple years ago, that was the worst contract in the NBA, especially long term. He has 1 more year in his deal right now. Currently, he has a player option next year. At $46 million, which I believe is going to opt in because I don't think anyone is signing that dude to that kind of money. And I hate talking shit about a guy who actually averaged, I think 14 and 13 last year. But again, he can be in turnstile at times. But Minnesota's making moves right now to build for the future. I think they see Ant as the prize piece, obviously, and obviously we all know that by now. And they're making moves to free up money to bringing other guys down the road. And when you have a Randle contract that could be off the books after this year, assuming that he's not there next beyond this season, Gobert's deal could be done within the next year or two. I think it's very possible that what Minnesota is doing is thinking long term, not short term. My son's here, but hold on a second, buddy. Almost done. Long term. For this, and I think they know the investment is worth the squeeze. So again, I think both teams win here in some respects. I would still give the edge to Minnesota because I love the Donte DiVicenzo move, especially. I think Minnesota can still be competitive right now in the short term, even with this move being done. I don't think Karl Anthony-Towns actually changes losing to him changes the dialogue in the Western Conference necessarily, or at least massively anyway. So there's my opinion on that whole situation. Emergency podcast today on a Sunday, September 29th, 2024. Again, on Twitter at EJ Christian 7. YouTube page, guys, check out the YouTube page at youtube.com/Earnest Christian. And we'll be getting back now to football Sunday. So, talk to you guys later and see you next one. Bye.
Thank you.